Okay, so for our final chapter here, we go back to chapter 3 in the textbook, and we're going to review some graphing of lines. So I have 3:1 and 3:2 here together because 3:1 is just a quick review of our rectangular coordinate system, which is, of course, what we would call a graph. It's where we graph our graphs of all of our different equations, lines specifically in this section that we're doing. So let's just do a really quick review of the rectangular coordinate system. So you can see a picture here. So you see that the rectangular coordinate system has two axes. There's an x-axis, which is horizontal. You can see the little x there, and there's a y-axis that is vertical. Where the x and the y-axis intersect, which is right here, that is called the origin. So when we have these two axes, the x-axis and the y-axis, it divides what we would call our coordinate plane into 4 parts, and those 4 parts are called quadrants. I'm going to write down that word so you can see it. So when we name our quadrants, we start in the upper right-hand corner. This would be quadrant 1, and we name them with Roman numerals. So there's quadrant 1, and then we go counterclockwise. So to the left of that is quadrant 2. Below quadrant 2 is quadrant 3. And then to the right of quadrant 3 or below quadrant 1 is the 4th quadrant. And you know what this plane consists of is a bunch of points. Each one of those points has a name. That name is called an ordered pair. Okay. An ordered pair looks something like this, and it contains 2 coordinates. It contains an x coordinate and a y coordinate. The ordered pair that goes with the origin, which we usually call point O, is 0, 0, because that's where we start whenever we're going to graph any points. So if we just start looking and graphing some points, let's say we're going to graph the point, let's call it A, and let's graph the point 3, 4. So if I'm going to graph that point on the coordinate plane, you would start at the origin. And since the x-coordinate is 3 and it's positive 3, we would go to the right 3. And then since the y-coordinate is 4, y meaning up and down, we would go up 1, 2, 3, 4, and there is a depiction of point A. If we were to do, let's say, point B and do maybe the point 7, 1, again, we'd start at the origin, and since the x-coordinate is 7, we'd go to the right 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Whoops, let's try that again. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. And then you'd go up positive 1. So notice any point in the first quadrant would have to have a positive x-coordinate and a positive y-coordinate. Because to get to quadrant 1, we have to go to the right positively and up positively. So now let's go to a different quadrant. Let's say that I have point C, and let's say that that point is -5, 2. So now, starting at the origin, if I want to graph the point -5, 2, since my x-coordinate is -5, I'd go to the left 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and then I'd go up positive 2, and you can see that that would put me with point C up into the 2nd quadrant. And you can hopefully see that any point in the 2nd quadrant would have a negative x coordinate and a positive y coordinate, because you have to go to the left negatively and up positively to get to quadrant 2. How about point D? Let's say my point D is 4 comma negative 3. Let's see where that's going to put us. Well, starting at the origin, my x-coordinate is positive 4, so I'd go to the right. 1, 2, 3, 4. My y-coordinate is a negative 3, so I'd now go down 1, 2, 3, and that would put me in the fourth quadrant. And again, any point in the fourth quadrant would have to have a positive x-coordinate and a negative y-coordinate. And then finally, if I go to point E, let's say point E is negative 2 comma negative 2. Starting at the origin, my x-coordinate being negative 2, I would run to the left 2, and then I'd go down 2, putting me in the third quadrant. So that is point E, and you can see that any point in the third quadrant would have to be a negative x and a negative y, because you'd have to go to the left and down to get there. Now, a couple of types of special points. Let's say for point F, we are looking at the point negative 6 comma 0. So if I want to graph the point negative 6 comma 0, that means starting at the origin, I'd go to the left, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and then I'd go up or down 0, which would put me on the x-axis. And any point on the x-axis will have a y-coordinate of 0. For our last point we'll do here, I bet you can guess. Let's have a point that has our x-coordinate of 0. Let's say 0, negative 6. So if we go to graph the point 0, negative 6, since my x-coordinate is 0, I don't go left or right at all, but my y-coordinate being negative 6 puts me at negative 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. It puts me right here for point G. And you can see that any point that lies on the y-axis would have an x-coordinate that is 0. So that's going to become important in section 3.3, I believe. So if it's on the x-coordinate, it has a y of 0, and if it's on the y-axis, it's going to have an x that is 0. Okay, so now let's translate that into some lines. I'm going to stop this video and then we will continue it in our next video.